Welcome to today's episode of the John McEntyre Money Show live. I'm John McEntyre, and we have a good show today. Very, no, I'm not going to say sensitive or anything like that. It's not sensitive, whatever, but it can be touchy. But today is February the 11th, 2025, Tuesday, the 11th, 2025. And so we're moving along. Hopefully you're making those wallet wins happening. You're sharing them. Um, I'm going to really get back to being more individual with celebrating them, but I appreciate the fact knowing that they're opening up those savings accounts, doing those high yield savings accounts, starting those checking accounts, the kids college fund, that individual retirement account. They're getting new jobs, better jobs. They're getting raises. And so I celebrate them all, and I really appreciate those. Um, so yeah. But yesterday, I talked about setting smart goals, and I wanted to make sure, and because I was talking to someone about that, and I wanted to make sure and cover that. But actually, this is the love week. Valentine's Day will be here Friday, and with Valentine's Day, for some people, it's a big time of celebration. For other people, it's I don't want to be in the world. I hate the entire world, and I don't like humanity. So it's two sides to this to this coin. Some people love February. I love February the 14th for a lot of reasons, and I'll talk more about those as that day gets closer. Um, but it can be, some people they really go overboard with with the gift giving, and there's nothing wrong with that. Giving gifts, I love giving gifts, and I love receiving gifts. Mine is very balanced. Some people are like, it's better to give than to receive. That is true. It is better to give than receive, but it's just as good to receive. You can't just be giving all the time and not receive anything. That's sort of like an off balance philosophy type thing, and people that goes by that philosophy, uh, they don't receive much anyway because they don't expect it. But I like giving, and I love receiving also. But here's a statistic given by the National Retail Federation. They're estimating that 50% of consumers plan to celebrate Valentine's Day. So over half of United States consumers plan to celebrate. And the projected spending is estimated to reach $27.5 billion. So, which is pretty much $188.81 per household. So those are the statistics. Some may spend more, a lot more. Some will spend less. But either way, that's a lot of money in one day being spent. Well, for one day. Um, I'm not against it. Like I said, I'm not against it. Somebody wants to send me $27.5 billion worth of desserts, candies, cookies, all of that good stuff. I'll take it. I'll get the storage facility set up, and we'll all put it in there. We'll have a good time. We'll have one big party. I'm just kidding. But yeah, that's going to be a lot of spending. And so have fun, celebrate your loved ones or your Valentine or whatever, but don't bust the budget. Don't go crazy and bust your budget there. But do have fun and celebrate that day of love. And so this week being, most people I know, some people I've talked to, they're in celebration mode. It's like they got up yesterday. Super Bowl was Sunday. They got up yesterday, um, still celebrating the Super Bowl, but then was like, oh yes, and I have to get ready for Valentine's Day, and that's that can be a recipe for good things or a recipe for disaster. You're already celebrating, um, a big win. Your favorite team won, and you're excited, and all of this. So now, when you go out to buy gifts, A merry heart is much more generous. So you have to be careful you don't go overboard because of all of the exuberance from the win, the celebration from the Super Bowl. And now you feel just that much more generous. And, I love the whole world, so I'm going to buy everything. Keep it real then. And on the other side, some people, their team didn't win and they're a little bit sour and salty. And so they're like in stingy mode. The world stinks and I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna spend any money or whatever. That's not good either. Keep it balanced. Just keep it balanced. And the reason why I'm saying is because I've talked to both sides of people that lost, people that won, and I heard both sides. Forget a Valentine's Day. I got enough things on my mind. I'm like, okay, it was just a sport and all of this. Keep it balanced. Then there's just the people in the middle who could care less. They're going to celebrate Valentine's Day or they're not going to celebrate it. And they've set their dollar amount they're going to spend. And that's what they're going to do, which is, the balanced view, which is good. So don't bust the budget. Have a good time. Do your part. You can contribute to that 27.5 billion that would be spent on Valentine's Day, but keep it within your budget, your limits. All right. So, like I was saying, yesterday I talked about SMART goals, and I've been talking about, things that you would do to achieve financial success. Well, with it being Valentine's week, I wanted to do a series for this week called Love and Money. And because love and money is sort of intertwined, when you love, you will spend your money, you want to shower the gifts and do everything like that. And so that's why I wanted to do the thing on love and money, but mainly love and money, but mostly also because Valentine's Day is a big day for weddings, also big day, marriages, proposals, things like that. And so what I wanted to do a series like, especially for today on love and money. I wanted to talk about before we say I do, what you should do. I just want to offer some tips that I've seen work because over the years of financial coaching, and it started with my church and then it spilled over into other churches and just people in general, saw the importance of, they know the importance of premarital counseling. I'm a big advocate. I'm a huge advocate. Two people should not get married until they've sat down with a professional and discussed things. Someone who is objective. They're not emotionally connected to either person. They can look at everything objectively and help couples make sound decisions before they go into marriage. I'm a huge advocate. But one of the weaknesses, and I had a pastor that told me this, it was my pastor years ago. He said, all the things about financial counseling, we, as pastors, we would sort of shy away from the money conversation because even then they knew, because that money conversation, money is just extremely sensitive. And we've done a disservice to our church members and outside of the church, the professionals, a lot of the professionals who would not go into that area. They say, yes, we've done a big disservice to a lot of couples that as we're doing premarital counseling, we would just sort of skim over it. The question, have you guys talked about money? And they would either say yes or no. And if they said yes, they were like, good, check it off the box and move forward. Or they would say no. And then they would say, it may be something you may want to discuss one day. Okay, well, that's not good enough. You need to, a lot of people, they're not financially literate. A lot of them haven't really thought about money that way. And so they needed some help. And lo and behold, good thing that, financial coaches, advisors, and financial planners were called in. Some of the professionals were smart and humble enough to say, okay, I'm going to call in a financial specialist, an expert, to sit down and we're going to talk about money together. And so some of them did, and that's what happened. Well, luckily I got involved in that a lot because being in real estate, a lot of times I would be with newlywed couples, and some of them were couples that weren't married yet. They were buying a house together, and so you could tell that there wasn't a lot discussed about money, because as we went forward, you would hear those things. Well, I wanted this. Well, we can't afford that. Well, you know, we would, we would hear those conversations in other rooms, and almost arguments. And before it would get too big, I would walk in like I was like looking at the house. I'm like, how's everything going? And interrupt that, because I didn't want some couples fighting in a listing someone else's house and tear it up, and then we end up liable for the damages. So that's why I became more interested in seeing this, and a lot of them would just ask me questions. It was like, John, you seem successful. You seem like you handle your money very well. What do you think in this area? Um, and I didn't want to shy away from the question, because I was receiving it a lot. So I was like, okay, let's get some training here and see what we could do. And that's when I started to implement like some financial coaching, counseling into my real estate practice. And then it sort of took its own it took a life of its own, because these people was like, I want to refer some people to you. They're not ready to buy a home, or they're getting ready, and they need to really talk about finances and everything before they make this decision, because you were so helpful to us. And that's what came. So before you say, you do what I've learned, there's a few things you should handle, when you're planning the wedding, because most people think about the wedding. That's a lot of people today, especially today, they're getting married just because they want a big wedding. It's an event. They're connected to the event. They're not thinking about that 10, 15, 20, 30 years afterwards. It's the old fairy tale thing. When the knight saves the damsel in distress, and then it says they lived happily ever after. I don't believe that every story was like that. They lived happily ever after, unless they went somewhere and got some marriage counseling after that happened. Because a warrior who's used to fighting all the time marries someone who wants to be saved all the time. That's not a good recipe for a nice, long, peaceful relationship. So I'll leave it there, and then let's move forward with this show. Before you say you do, you know, difference, also something I've learned, differences over finances has been, one of the leading most common issues of couples splitting. Financial issues is one of the leading causes of divorce. It could be, and a lot of those divorces could be prevented with some premarital financial counseling or coaching. So to make sure that you and your spouse, if you're thinking about getting married, or you're newlywed, or even if you are married, it's never too late. But sometimes some divorces could be, I heard a minister say this, some divorces could be avoided if the couple was just never married, because they really shouldn't have gotten married in the first place. There were just too many differences there. Then on the other side, some extremely happy people that I know that did premarital counseling, a lot of people that I've talked to, past clients and everything, that did it, and they included the financial piece in it. They're good. They're doing very well. Everything's right, because they made some of those sensitive agreements was made up front. They weren't surprises later on. 1, 2, 3, 5 years down the road, these surprises popping up. And so I just wanted to offer a few tips today, and to, the rest of this week, it's quite a few. It's some questions and tips and everything that will help make this much easier. So before you get married, if I'm talking to a couple, the first thing I'm going to ask them, and if they go talk to a financial therapist, a financial counselor, coach, financial planner that's really in tune with serving their client, the first question they're going to ask, I'm going to ask it, is what's important about money to you. It's the it's the values question. What's important, and really what's important about life, because you have two people here and they have similarities and differences. So we want to know up front what our similarities are and what our differences are, because there is an old saying, opposites attract. When you meet couples, one is maybe more outgoing, extroverted, and the other one is introverted. And science is every day science is debunking that more and more, because they're the specialists of the mind, the psychiatrists, psychologists, they're saying things like, yes, opposites do attract, but it's the similarities that bond. And the more similar people are, the better the bond later on. um in the beginning, it may be that introvert um guy, he's attracted to that free spirited girl. She has that spark, that wildness, that beautiful, the beautiful wildness and everything like that. Or it might be that very extroverted guy who's attracted to that intellectual introverted girl. She's cerebral, and she thinks, and she's not what they would call flaky and stuff like that, and so they are attracted. But usually what causes you to be attracted later causes you to attack. So that's why the values conversation is so important. And then you bring the money into it, because you basically, people handle their money around their values, what's important to them. And that's why it's important to have those conversations, because one may be a spender. One, the future husband, he may be that spender. He likes those toys, and he likes expensive toys. Whereas the future wife, she may be saving because she's thinking about the kids and the kids' college and health care and things like that, the responsibilities of life. And so he wants to spend all the time and she wants to save. Recipe for a heads button, you know. So that's why it's so important to talk about that. So you want to have that values conversation. We sit down and we talk to couples and individuals a lot about this, and that's the first question I'm always going to ask. People know it. People that know me, when they come and call, they already sort of have started the process of doing it. Well, what's really important is this, and help get the ball rolling, because they know what I'm going to ask, and that's very important. So that values conversation, have that values conversation. The next one, I talked about it with financial success, achieving financial success in 2025. Complete that individual net worth statement, because that shows where each where the couples are individually pertaining to their finances. So everything, there's the snapshot, there's the picture. Here's my financial picture. Here's my net worth statement. This is what I own. This is what I owe. These are the assets I have. And so, and she shows hers. They both have their financial snapshots right there, and they can compare them, because that will contribute to decisions. It shows values. It shows financial intelligence, financial literacy. Shows one person may be further along financially than the other one, and that's not a reason to not marry or whatever. It's just, now I know this, that, the other. And then it goes back into the values. It could be the values thing, because that's what it is. This person over here, their net worth statement is not looking so good. They're in the negative. They have a lot of debt and everything. That means they probably spent a lot and enjoyed life a lot. Whereas this one, they have a positive net worth and it's growing by the day, and they intend for it to keep happening. They need to have a meeting of the minds and make some decisions. And that's what the net worth statement will help do. It's that snapshot. Next, credit report. You want to know what a person's their credit score is, because she has a 800 credit score, he has a 300 credit score. That will affect purchases. That will affect all kinds of things. It could affect jobs and things like that. And so the new couple, they may not have bought a home yet, things like that, and they may be preparing to get a mortgage, and they may decide they're going to go the traditional route of using their credit. Okay, if someone has an 800 credit score over here and the other has a 300 over here, it may be better to just let the 800 credit score do the purchase. That can happen, and then it becomes community property, things like that. Real estate rules kick in, or later on it can things can be rearranged. But that's what happens that's what you need to know. For credit scores, I need to know if your credit is good, credit is bad, what you're bringing to the table. um, Not a deal breaker. Some people it is a deal breaker because they say I just don't want to deal with someone with bad credit. That means their character, just some people look at it that way. They don't want to pay their bills. They've created a lot of mess, and I don't want to spend the first 5 years of my marriage cleaning up on the messes that I did not make. Some people will look at it that way, and hey, if that's how they look at it, that's how they look at it. Let's just save a messy divorce. I mean, if it's that way, it's just that way. um Next one question: are there any bankruptcies? And that goes back to the credit repos or other negative financial events in the past. That's a good question to ask, because like the credit report, the net worth statement, that's basically saying what the person values with money. Or it could be a lack of financial literacy, and they now you know what you're working with also. But like I say, if a person comes in, you looked at their credit report and you see a bankruptcy, or they've already been repossessed in their 20s or something like that, they early 30s, and they're already filing bankruptcy. uh, we need to know why. You want to know why. It could be just maybe a business went bad or something like that, a business deal, or someone stole their identity. But we need to know and have the discussion, so that now I know what to do, because I don't want to go into things blindly. That's what I hear a lot of people say who has a strong financial foundation. I don't want to be blindsided by anything. I want to know up front. My love is strong enough to where we'll get through it. We'll fix it. As long as you tell me, being honest. So that's why that question is so important. Another one, a lot of people, they only think it's for the rich, athletes, celebrities, and everyone think, are we going to do a prenup? Is a prenup important in this marriage? And the reason why a lot of times I've seen them, and these people, wasn't exactly because these people was wealthy. They knew maybe a future inheritance, a pretty large inheritance is coming, and they want to keep that separate. And a prenup would actually do that. This is where an attorney is very important. You want an attorney to be involved in this, because there are some things. Some people think, well, I had a prenup, but then they get the money and they commingle it, sort of mingle it into the joint accounts, things like that, and that pretty much does away with the prenup. The other party, if a divorce did happen, the other party that did not receive the inheritance, they are entitled, because they could be entitled because the money was commingled, and so that was an assumption that, hey, I was sharing the money. I know I said this, but I started doing this. They have to go by actions. And so then prenup, there's state specific. It depends on what type of state you're in, things like that. And that becomes very important. But a prenup, it comes into that. Or if there's been, maybe one of the future spouses has had a marriage and been divorced, and they have kids, and they want to make sure kids get things from the first marriage and all of this. That's where that comes into play. But if that's not the case, it's just two people, and one of them, maybe one has a set of parents who are very successful entrepreneurs or investors, and they've made up their mind, hey, you're going to be the heir of this, but we don't want to be wasted. We want you making sole decisions. This is some other things we want done with the money, whereas this new spouse may not be down for doing that. They may see that future inheritance as a nice second home, beach house, or a big boat, yacht, something like that. Okay, the prenup comes into play and keeps that under control, and that's where you have to put those types of things in place. Talk to an attorney. So I hope that got some people thinking. I'm going to end it there. I'm going to continue tomorrow with more of this Love and Money series as we get ready for Valentine's Day. That's just some things to think about today. Values conversation. Complete that individual net worth. Compare them. Pull that credit report. Show it. It's all about, being transparent. That's a big buzzword today, is being transparent. People say, I just want to be transparent. Okay, these are ways of being transparent financially. And discuss if there's been any like serious financial traumas or whatever, bankruptcy, repossessions, foreclosures in the past. And you may need to have that prenup conversation. Maybe discussing. It's not that I don't trust you or whatever. It's just that it's not just me. This money I may be inheriting some money, and the people that's leaving the money to me want certain things done, and they're going to have things in place. But I may have to be involved in it, and you know, it's just a conversation. Um, Athletes, celebrities, they have like the big ones. I saw it's an athlete. I watch his podcast all the time. Um, he didn't get married because of that. He wanted his girlfriend. He NBA, retired from the NBA, millions of dollars in the bank. He was just making sure he was protecting his interests. Whatever I bring is mine. Whatever happens after that is ours. She didn't like it. He didn't get married. A lot of people, bashed him, but I celebrated him. I was like, hey, he was honest. He was honest. I was like, the right wife will come. She's on her way, as long as she knows what he's serious about as far as his finances. So that being said, I'll be back tomorrow discussing more of this love and money. Before we say I do, that's just what I wanted to talk about today before we say I do. So if you have any questions, you have any you want to share some wallet wins or whatever with us, contact us. uh, you may be married and may need to actually talk about this. You may be thinking about getting married. You may be discussing marriage, and it may be time to have those conversations, and you may need to talk to a professional. Give us a call. Either we could do it, or we know people that can help you with it. So you're not out there alone, and this is very serious. Like I said, a lot of times opposites do attract, but it's those similarities that bond. Too many opposites at the top and not enough similarities. It's a recipe for divorce court. I've seen it happen quite a few times, and it's not pretty, but it can be handled. It can, if you take care of it proactively, it can be handled up front, and actually, you would actually live happily ever after with that person that you love. So, that being said, I will see you tomorrow, same time, Facebook Live, YouTube Live. Don't forget to subscribe, share. Tune in tomorrow, 10 a.m. We'll talk.